Um, so we went into this Oyer Vikeli at Manvov. After the parentheses. So I want to discuss a little more this inyan. The Rebbe says that Oyer is poshut bli his chalkus klal or bli gvul. The Oyer mein hamoyer. Because Oyer is mein hamoyer. Ukshem she hamoyer hu poshut betachlis hapshitus. Bli בבחינס בלי גבול בעצם, כמו כן הוער והגילוי ממנו, כמו המויר פשוט בישחק בלי גבול. So I want to discuss these few lines over here. First we have to understand what is meant by moir. That moir is pשוט בתכלס הפשיטוס בלי גבול בעצם. And then to understand the union of Oyer, Dovek Bahamoyer, and then to understand the Oyer from Ayam Ein Hamoyer. A moshel from the union from Moir, which is a etzem, is really something which cannot be fully understood. The reason it cannot be fully understood is because this is etzem, and understanding, the whole principle of understanding is that you are outside of the etzem and you understand how it expresses itself. That's what understanding is. Like the Rambam describes seichel. That seichel is something which increases all the time. Adds. Something that increases, adds all the time. That means that is something that you're taking from outside. You're taking it in. Therefore, what lends itself, what allows itself to be understood, something that is that expresses itself. You have an inside and an outside, and you're taking it in. And etzem doesn't have an inside and outside. The inside and the outside is the same. It is something which is true within itself. It's within itself. Like for instance, we have light. The reason we can understand light is because we also have darkness. And we see that the light comes here. So we say, what is light? In the dark you cannot see, and in light you can see. But let's say, if there was no such thing as darkness, there was only light, and you asked to explain what is light, do you have no way to describe it? We always explain that in fact the seeing, the ability to see objects, sight itself is a combination of light and darkness. You cannot see things if there is only light. The reason we see objects is because we see light and darkness. We have a shade, more light and less light, and the combination of darkness and light together, this is what allows us to see things. If not for that, we couldn't see it. And how is that? How does it happen that we have shade? We have shade only because light comes from one direction, and therefore the other direction, from where there is no light, there's shade. And the object obstructs the light, and therefore you could see the object. If there was no obstruction, if the light came from all directions, then you couldn't see it. So therefore an etzem, by definition, is not something that we can understand directly. We can only understand it in contrast and saying it's not light. What do we call it? That's the sunlight that comes to us clearly is something that comes to us. And here we obviously can have light, yes light or no light. In the sun itself, the whole concept of there not being light doesn't exist. And the principle it doesn't exist is not merely because the sun is shining all the time, but because it's an essence of light. The whole concept of not light doesn't exist. And I want to explain it the following way. This is why always when you have a mashal of light, they give a mashal from the sun. Why not a mashal from a candle? A candle also gives light. Why always go back to the sun? There's a whole inyan, this shemesh, the candle comes from a fire, from a light. And the explanation is that candlelight is not at all the same as sunlight. Candlelight is a fire that consumes, burns up a wick, an oil. Wick and oil are not light. They are dark. When this darkness, the wick and the oil get consumed, burned up, becomes a fire, and the fire gives off light. So therefore, the candlelight is not an essence of light. On the contrary, the center, it comes from darkness. So candlelight is something which we can readily understand in this world, because this world is primarily dark, and we can understand how there can be light, because you take the darkness and you burn it and it becomes light. So when we experience candlelight, it doesn't change our perspective. When we have candlelight, it didn't change anything. We still have darkness, the primary state is still darkness, except we are illuminating darkness by burning it. So it didn't change the world. The sun is a completely different situation. The sun does not have a darkness inside that it burns up to give out light. The sun is an essence of light through and through. It's light through and through. Therefore, in the sun, it's a different world, so to speak. The whole inyan of light in the sun is a completely different concept than we have here. It's not light coming out of the darkness. And that's why when sun comes up, the whole world changes. It's a different world. It becomes day. When a candle is put up, no matter how many candles you put up, you don't say, oh, it's day. It doesn't become day. It's still dark, except you're burning up the darkness. And you recognize that this hasn't changed anything in the world. You just made it possible to see. But when the sun comes up, it changes the whole mitzvahs of the world. When the sun comes up, it isn't only that the sun permits you to see, but it's a different period. It changes the whole world. Because the type of light that the sun gives is very different than the light of a candle. The type of light that the sun gives is a light that is light through and through, that doesn't know of darkness. Not the dark and light that comes from darkness. It's a light that does not know that darkness exists. And that is completely different mitzvahs than the world. This is why it completely changes the mitzvahs of the world. This is what it says in the Pasuk. Hashem created a light. The first day, Yehi Oir, there should be light. So then it said, Vayikra Elikim lo Oir Yoim, v'lachoshech kol ha'layla. Hashem called light day, and darkness he called night. So what is this naming? What is the significance of this name? He gave it the name day, he gave it the name night. What's wrong with light and dark? Why do you have to give it a separate name? And the explanation is that light and dark are just relative. You could see or you can't see. Day and night are not relative. They're different entities. So when it's light, it's not just light that you could see. It's a different entity. It's day. It's not the same world. At night, it's not the same world. We know halachically, in the Beis Hamikdash, you can only do the Aveda by day. The person can do, there are things that you can do only by day, because it's a different period. What's wrong? What's the difference? Make light and you could see what you do. No, it's not the same thing. It's a different time. To have that kind of effect, that is a different time, can only be when it is connected to such an entity where light is an essence. In other words, if you have a lot of light, a lot of candles, but the light is not an essence, the light coming out of darkness, you can't change the world. It doesn't change anything. The sense of it is that this is darkness being illuminated. To make a change, you have to bring into the world a new concept, a new entity. What kind of entity? An entity that is light through and through. That is a sun. Then you can change the world. Make day and night. So therefore, when we say that the sun, we have sunlight, so even though we only get sunlight, we don't get sun. But the sunlight reflects the essence of sun. It's a kind of a light that does not have darkness in it. It is light through and through. That's what Me'ein HaMoed. It truly represents sun. And that's how you change the world. If this light should not represent sun, it would just be light, then it would not make such a big effect. So the inyan of oir, me'ein ha'moir, means that the oir carries with it not just that it can illuminate, make you see, but it brings the luminary, it brings the sun down here. It brings the essence of what sun stands for, which is the essence of light. It brings it down here. How can that be? How can the sun is over there and the light is here, millions of miles away? And the explanation is that the oir is mechuber, dovuk behamoir. This dovuk behamoir does not only mean that the oil has to constantly come from the moir. A light also has to come from the candle all the time. It has to always come because that light which came went away. Now a new light has to come. Dovuk b'hamoyer is something else. Dovuk b'hamoyer is that the light that we have this moment, not in order to have the next moment, this moment, the light that we have. What does it represent? What does it stand for? It stands for the moir. In other words, the fact that we have such thing as day, which changes the entire situation, entire world, is not because we have light, but because we have sun. If we had light alone, we wouldn't have day. But this light is dovuk, and it brings with it the sun. It brings with it the sense that the sun is here. And therefore, it brings to the world the sense that there is no such thing as darkness. Not that it's light. Darkness doesn't exist. This is what happens by day. Doesn't such thing as darkness. As long as the sun is out, no matter what time of day it is, even if the sun is just going to set a minute later, you don't sense that darkness is coming. There's no darkness. Darkness and light do not come gradually. Because as long as the sun is here, darkness doesn't exist. The whole concept of darkness doesn't exist, because in the sun there's no darkness. Therefore, this gives us a moshel on the union of an etzem and an oir, and the union of oir. Normally, we speak of light, like the candlelight, or even the sunlight, the way we analyze it. The light comes from a place and reaches this place. It comes. If it has to come, it means that this place, in essence, is not light, is dark, and light has to come to it. If it has to come, coming already consists of what's called protein, How far does it travel? How much does it cover? How much comes? Is it coming? You bring it in. But the sun's presence in the world does not give you the sensation that light is coming. It transforms the whole thing. It's light, it's day. You don't have the sensation that light is coming in because darkness doesn't exist. The whole world becomes embraced with light. It is only light, there's no darkness. So you don't have the sensation that it's coming. It is light through and through. You have the same effect as if you were in the sun. It's light through and through. If it's light through and through, there are no protein. It doesn't come from here to here to here to there. Nothing is happening. It's just one essence of light. You understand the concept? This is what it says. That an oiros are bli gvul, just like the moir. Because oimein ha-moir. What does bli gvul mean? Bli gvul cannot consist of many entities. You cannot cumulative. You cannot accumulate bli gvul entities. Collect. If something consists of a lot of little pieces, it can never be bli gvul. It's little pieces. No matter how many pieces you gather, it's still not bli gvul. Bli gvul means that it doesn't consist of pieces. It's an essence. It has it through and through in essence. Not accumulated, not collected.
What about the pasuk in this pasuk Duda? Isn't an Indian of something that's gvul, but this is a
Dudov and all that, these are creatures. These are malachim creations. This is not him. This is not the Oiris. This is Oiris B'Keili. But in Oir, it's not a cumulative thing. And this is, do you understand that? This is why we say that Oir doesn't consist of halakim, of parts. You cannot say that it's light here, and it's light here, and it's light here. In a candlelight, you could say that. Because it just extends itself from the candle, from darkness. But sunlight, boom. It's one and one entity of light because it's sun. Even though we have to understand that this is what's called a moshel gashmi. And therefore, in the case of the sun, in fact, we experience the sun rising, and therefore it extends itself. But this is only because it's only a moshel begashmius. But the essence of the moshel, in other words, if this would not have the limits of gashmius, then the world would cease to exist. It has to have the limits of gashmius. But within the Gashmizik world, the Rebbe created such situations that give us a moshel for ruchnis. So that as a moshel, it is not exact, but as a moshel, it gives us an understanding what it means, oy mein hamoir, and that oil is dovek b'hamoir. Because, again, to summarize, the union of sunlight is not light. It's sun. It's sun through light. But the sensation of daylight is that the sun is here, not light, not that I could see across the street. In Pasuk, in the Pasuk, It says, Hashemesh yotzo al ha'oretz. The sun came to the earth. It doesn't say light came to the earth. Because light doesn't change anything. But sun changes the whole situation. Light exists in the world itself, in the earth. You can make light by striking a match, but you can't make sun. So, this is the pshat, oyer is v'kelim. The oyer, the sunlight itself, is without any distinction. It is unlimited aspect of light. Light, unlimited aspect means light through and through. Then there is a keli. The keli, this is a keli. This may, how do we see light? The fact that I can see the object. Like I can see this, I can see this. Each one of these takes this infinite, the essence of light, and limits it. Gives it off in different quantities. White gives off more light, dark gives off less light. And this is why we have all kinds of different things. These are all keli. And here there is distinction, there are differences. But which light do they take? The light that they take is all the same light, but they take different parts of it. They subdivide it into pieces, make it possible for us to appreciate and to see the light. The fact is, it's an interesting phenomenon, that up above the atmosphere, it's dark. Sunlight is there, but it's perfectly dark. Why? Because there's no kalim. It's not dark. If you put something up, you could see it. But you can't see light alone, because there's no kalim. There's nothing limited in light. Therefore you can't see it. The light that we see, constantly see, is because this light is deflected by the air. So it is a keli that makes us see light, see in a very general way. But if without a keli at all, we'll be able to see it. Because oir mein ha-moir, and the union of moir is an essence you cannot see.
I don't see why it's called or.
What's the problem with calling with the oir? What should it be called? Huh?
The person is inside the Maor, the person is inside the sun, the person cannot see light. We don't see nothing.
What's it again?
The person is inside the sun, okay, Shemesh, the person will not see nothing. We will not see light. We will not see light beside the
Inside the sun?
Yeah.
Of course not.
Okay, why is it called Or?
This is outside of the sun. Okay, so I want to read again right after the parentheses. Oir is me'ein ha-moir. וכשם שהמויר הוא פשוט בתכלס הפשיטוס. Just as the moir is poshut betachlis apshitus. Poshut means that it has absolutely no definition. And as we explained, that the whole concept of definition is related to the process. It's coming from one place to another. Something that is in the essence, in its own source, that is poshut. Doesn't have to be defined. And it's poshut betachlis apshitus, totally and completely. It's hard to give it words. We know each other by name. How do we know ourselves? By eye. There's no name. You know each other we know yourselves by name. And knowing yourself, in terms of knowing yourself, it's, per se, it's not even called knowing. You can know yourself in terms of what I'm able to do, what I'm not able to do, my pluses, my minuses, my capabilities. But in terms of knowing yourself, my presence, it's not called knowing. It is there. It is what's called a idea pshuta. Doesn't come through some kind of a process of an indicator. But knowing someone else, you know it through some kind of an indicator. You recognize this as this person, different face, different. So that that's not poshut. There was a Chosid, Roitblatt. His first name slips my mind. He was just passed away a few years ago. He was a very chassidish Yid. You know, from the old Hague. So there was a time that the Rebbe had urged people there was a demonstration of some kind. And the Rebbe talked about the demonstration. So the Chassidim went to demonstration. He also went. So someone said to him, "You were there by the demonstration." So he said, "How do you know?" He says, "It's in the papers." Well, it's in the papers. So is there a picture? So he says, "Show me." So he shows him the picture. He says, "Who says that this is me?" He never looked at himself in the mirror. He doesn't know what he looks like. This is me. How can you not recognize yourself? If you have to go out in the mirror, because the way you know yourself is not the way it shows in the mirror. You know yourself on a different level. The mirror is just for show. What's the real person? That you can't tell this is me. Elechaim, I think. Okay. Anyway, so this is a poshut betachlis apshitos because it's a moir. It's poshut bli gvul be'etzem. It is bli gvul not because he has accumulation of a lot of pieces. It becomes bli gvul. No, it's be'etzem bli gvul. To begin with, it's bli gvul. K'moi kein ha'oir ve'hagilui mimenu, and thus similarly, the oir, which is the gilui from it, which expresses it, which is revealed from it. Hu k'moi ha'moir. It's just like the moir. Because the principle of oir and gilui let me discuss this also. coming back to the mashal of the sun, physically speaking, the sun is a ball of fire, of extreme heat. But what is its essential presence? What was it created for? What is its finest
Essential.
main? What is the just like a person can do a whole bunch of things. He can eat, he can sleep, he can talk, whatever it is. But when you want to describe what is the essence of a person, you have to come to that which is the finest aspect of the person, which represents what a person is. What is representative of sun? It is light. So even though the sun is hot, and you can also feel its heat and all that, but its essence, what it stands for, is light. And in this sense that it is light, it is supposed to, this light does not consist of any, there is no effort on the part of the sun to create light. This is the essence of light, of the sun itself. And therefore the oil that comes from the sun, in terms of light, it is entirely bipashtas. What does that mean, entirely bipashtas? There is no activity involved in making light. It is what light is. Light illuminates automatically. Bipashtas. Then the keli takes certain parts of it, but light is automatic. Poshu bli his chalkos ubli gvul. The light is also bli his chalkos ubli gvul. This is the inyan for Shem Havaya, and the moshe for this is the oil v'ziv Hashemesh. Omnom. But then, Shem Alikim hu mokoir hakelim. This is the source of kelim. And as we already pointed out, the concept of kelim. Kelim is the means by which we can take the light in a way that we can grasp it, we can utilize it, we can understand it. Shebohem misamtzeim umisalem ha'oir, where in this kelim, the oir becomes contracted, becomes limited, umisalem, and it is actually hidden. Helen, misalem means becomes concealed. Umagbilim as ha'oir, and they limit the oir. Shabo bebchinas his chalkus, whereby the oil comes in a his chalkus aspect, such as chochma v'chesed. As for example, chochma and chesed. Chochma and chesed, these are a mashal, this is an example, illustration of kelim. Now, if we take chochma and chesed, so a person has, for instance, in a human being, a person has chochma and chesed, and he has all kinds of other koiches, as we described, I think, yesterday. So, yes, each koyach can be identified individually. There is chochma, there is chesed, there is gvura, there is bina, But when a person is involved in chokhmah, and then he's involved in chesed, is it a different person? It's a different, same place, the same person. When he's involved in bina, he's the same person. Whatever he does, it's the same person. How is it the same person? They're completely different activities. The answer is that in fact they're different activities, very different and limited and on different levels completely. But they all come from the same source. The fact that a person has chokhmah, the fact that he has chesed, and the fact that he has all other koiches is rooted in the etzem hanefesh. They're not additions. Except that we want to capture, we want to demonstrate what is a nefesh ha'adam, what is a human soul. We want to demonstrate it in Gashmius. They can only demonstrate it by utilizing 613 different aspects. And in that itself, all kinds of different variations to demonstrate what is nefesh adam capable of. But it's all the same nefesh. Like for instance, we have chesed and gevura, which we'll discuss as we go on. But in general, everybody knows chesed means a complete expression, and gevura means limiting. That inyan, that a person has chesed and gevura, this is really demonstrative of a person. A person who can only speak, he cannot stop speaking and say something is wrong with him. Why? He can speak. He doesn't have the ability to stop speaking. Because in the essence of the person, when he is able to speak, there is also the essence to withhold speech. It's all coming from the same source. So that these kelim are all means by which you capture this oil. But in order to capture the oil, you have to limit it. In other words, I'm going to take this little part, this little part, and this little part. But all these parts come from the same source. But I'm taking out this aspect and this aspect. And this is why we say that this is what's called mitzamtzim, magbil, and misalim ho'er. You have to be malim the oil. Because if you're not malim the oil, then the koiches get lost. Then the whole thing of chokhmah and chesed get lost. When is it chokhmah and chesed? Only when you're able to malim. What is a koyach? Again, like I explained before, chokhmah, all koiches, starting from chokhmah on down. The definition of a koyach is that it's a function. Function means that it can be functioning and not functioning. It can be active and not active. Something that is there all the time is not a koyach. The nefesh, the oil is there all the time. It's the same oil. So if we should not be mitzamtzim the oil and conceal the inyan that this is chayz that coming that is present all the time, we will not be able to identify any koyach. In order to identify a koyach, even a koyach like chokhmah, you have to be mitzamtzim, be able to concentrate on chokhmah. This is the union of Keli. Shekol zehu mitzad hakelim. This is all because of the kelim. Okay, because and which means that the kelim are means by which you malim the oil and brings out koiches. The hagam the kelim the essence filis. Although that the kelim of the essence filis, harei he megalim as ha'oir hamulubas beteicho. They actually reveal the oil that is within them. The union of the kelim is not to conceal, but to reveal. Reveal the oil that is mislabish in this kelim. What do we mean by this? As for example, the moyach, the brain in the head, shemegale esoir haseichel hamlubas beteichei lahaskil. The moyach reveals the oil of the seichel that is malubas, that is in this moyach. I'll explain it in a few minutes. Similarly, the eye, megale esoir horeiyo ruchnis. It reveals the ability, or the ruchnizike aspect of sight. Vehalev megale es hamidos. And the heart reveals the midos. Okay, so what are we saying? We just finished saying that the kelim, they're mitzamtum and magbil and conceal, but in fact, the kelim have a positive effect. What does the brain do? The brain does not conceal the nefesh. On the contrary, it reveals the oir haseichel. And so too all the other koiches.
The person can have oral sechel in the soul, but it is.
We don't have the dimension.
What?
But the person can have very good koach sechel in the soul, but since he don't have a kelim like moach, he's not gonna reveal. He cannot reveal the slide.
Right. So he doesn't have a keli to reveal the essence. You know, every moyach reveals the seichel to an extent, but whatever it reveals, the function of the moyach is to reveal the eira seichel, not to conceal the eira seichel. We have to go a little further to understand what the Rebbe is actually alluding to here. Ukmoi kein hu lemailo, and a similar thing is lemailo. Chochma moicha. It has a chochma. This is called moyach. And chesed is the royoimina. Chesed is the right arm. Sheheim megalim as ha'oiris. So these mayach and royoimina are megalim the oir of chochma and chesed. Droya means the arm. Arm. The right arm. The zehu kol inyan, as I said, let me go through you get the point that the Rebbe wants to say, then we'll discuss it. The Zeho Kolin HaKelim. For this is, in fact, the whole function of Kelim. Shemegalim as Ha'oir. That they actually produce and reveal the Oir. The Ha'oir Poel Al Yodo. And the Oir acts and affects through them. Kiyodua. The canal, the nefesh, as is known as we explained, pointed out in nefesh. Hine shnehem emes. However, both points are true. Sheheim megalim az ha'oir, v'gam ma'alimim u'mastirim al ha'oir. Kelim do both. They reveal the oir and they also conceal the oir. How is this? The ma shemegalim az ha'oir, because that which we say that they reveal the oir, hainu oir shelefi erech ha'olam ois. They allow the revelation of the oir only that aspect of the oir that is lefi erech ha'olam is. Oir that can relate to worlds. Okay, here we can stop a bit. Even though it's not the end, but we can stop. What do we mean by oil if you erech ha'olamis? As we discussed before, that the essence of oil, this is bli gvul. And the Keli allows you to see the function and the effect of this oil. Lefi erech ha'olamis means the word oilam and etzem are two opposites. Etzem is an essence. An essence means that which is there in essence, which is there in and of itself. The whole principle of world is that there is more than one thing. And one thing affects the other. That's what world means. Like in the example of the koiches of chesed and gvura. In order that speech should be able to function in the world, you have to be able to speak and refrain from speaking. Act and not act. Chesed and Gvura. In world, there has to be, since that in world everything has to be affected, has to be brought into the world and created. There has to be the sense that it comes into it. It's not there in essence. I mentioned many times a phenomenon that occurred some years back of a little boy who was born and he knew the whole Torah at birth. It's a whole story in those years. And so you would say it's a wonderful thing. He knows the whole Torah. Everything. Gemara, everything. He knew the whole Torah.
I met somebody once who was one of the Bachur that tested me.
Yeah, somebody told me that he actually asked him. He was standing by him by the street and started saying something, and he rattled off. He really knew the whole thing. He was a phenomenon. You know the story that the Malach comes and makes him forget everything, but he mamish knew the whole thing. So then they took him to the Belzer Rebbe, and the Belzer Rebbe gave him a bracha that he should forget. What kind of bracha is it he should forget? Forget the Torah. He works so hard to know it, and he knows it to begin with. The answer is, please understand, that knowledge is useless. It's not a worldly knowledge. Worldly knowledge is only a knowledge that you experience acquiring the knowledge. How do I know this? I learned it. It comes here. It comes to you. That which we know in essence, without experiencing, acquiring it, is not a knowledge that exists in the world. It exists in the nefesh. In fact, the nefesh knows everything. The truth is, our whole learning process is all to reveal that which the nefesh knows. But we have to reveal it. And we see how we know, because we learn, we struggle, we labor, and we work hard, and something remains. Then that's called knowledge. Knowledge that we have without having the experience of acquiring is not a knowledge that exists in the world. This is called be'erech ha'olamus. In order it should be be'erech ha'olamus means that it should be something that you could know and not know. So that you come from a state of not knowing to a state of knowing. That which has that quality that you can know and not know is a limited truth. Something that is unlimited cannot have both knowing and not knowing. You can only know it. It's only there. There's no such thing as not being there. Do I have you with me?
I have a question on this story. It's a famous story.
No, 1 second. It's a story. Forget about the story for a moment. And this is only a muscle to understand the unity that we're trying to understand here. Yes, 1 second. Do you understand the concept I'm pointing out? That if it's be'erech ha'olamus, it has to be of a limited quality. Because if it is unlimited quality, it doesn't have the essence of worldliness. Worldliness means it comes into being.
So
If it doesn't come into being, then it's not part of the world.
So for this world, it's not true.
For this world, it doesn't exist. Exactly. This boy who knew everything, let's assume that, okay, yeah, but the reality of the story, it's a muscle for the universe that we're learning for sure. This knowledge meant nothing to him at all. He never experienced knowing it, never made decisions in his mind unto, right and wrong, good and bad, on that basis of that learned knowledge. It meant nothing. It's like intuitive, it's like instinctive knowledge. Instinct is not knowledge. By human level. So I'm sorry that it should be be'erech ha'olamus. This is what the kelim Allah. Be'erech ha'olamus means that they conceal the whole oyer, the essence of the oyer. Now, it's that which makes the oyer true in itself that it conceal. What do we understand in our seichel? What do we learn when we learn something? We learn that which makes sense to us. You understand? That which is above making sense, that which we don't understand, it doesn't make sense. We can learn, but we can't learn it. You can learn, you can be told things of, the way things are in the higher worlds, but it mean nothing to you. You didn't learn it. The whole process of learning is, like we're learning through words, through oises, because it has to be able to be consumed by our mind. So this is what the kelim are kelim for the oir, and they reveal the oir. But what do they reveal in the oir? They reveal in the oir a limited aspect of the oir, because oir itself is bli gvul, which means, what does bli gvul mean? As we said before, the oir Hashem, it is the essence. It is in essence so. But if you say that this is in essence so, you won't know anything. In order to know, you have to take it in bits. So why is it so? On what basis? What does it mean? Is it good or bad? You have to have a means of grasping it. This is what the kelim filter out. That's like kelim. And this is how it comes. And this is why they distinguishes between chokhmah and chesed and gvura, different ways that you take it. Otherwise, it's all one truth. Yeah, and let's see what is your problem with the story?
No, not a problem. I don't have any question that the story is real because I actually met somebody who told me that he himself tested this.
Yeah.
I have a question. So I question though, the bracha that the Belzer Rebbe gave him, isn't that like we have the famous story about the Alter Rebbe that wanted to give a bracha.
Now what?
The Alter Rebbe wanted to give a bracha for knowing Torah. I think it was
No, Tzemach Tzedek.
And he said, no, I want to earn it on my own, and later on he regretted because Torah is unlimited, and even if you got the bracha to know Torah, so he would just build on from there.
It's not the same thing. And I'll explain to you why. Because if the Alter Rebbe were given a bracha, it doesn't mean that the Torah would fly into Tzemach Tzedek's mind. It would mean that his mind would open, and he would be able to perceive Torah much more quickly, and much more deeply, and much more easily. He would still experience having acquired it. Because anything that is not experienced, having acquired, is not a gift. Okay? Except by one person, this happened. Who was that person? Moshe Rabbeinu. Moshe Rabbeinu, he got the whole Torah a matona. But, huh?
What you say?
He got the Torah as a matona, kekala. But this is Moshe Rabbeinu was the essence of Torah, different thing. But the of acquiring knowledge without acquisition, it's not knowledge.
When you say not knowledge, what's Ruach HaKodesh? Ruach HaKodesh is knowledge that you didn't get through your own. Hashem put it in your head. You know where the box is. You know where the donkeys are. How do you know? You don't even know how you know. But it's still knowledge. Something else is
No, it's not. You acquire that knowledge. You acquire that knowledge from a different source, but you felt the acquisition process. The Abraham came and told you.
No, I don't mean like a Navi, where Hashem tells you.
Ruach HaKodesh is the same thing. You have to focus in, and there is the acquisition experience. Everybody's at different levels. You know what I'm saying? The greater person, his acquisition is on a different level, but nevertheless there has to be the acquisition. Like the Rebbe says that he thinks about all his chassidim every day, and he knows what's going on. But he has to think about them. But if he thinks about them, he knows. But not thinking, not having any connection, it's not knowledge. Although by the Rabbeim there is also a neshama connection, and anyway, these people we don't begin to understand it. Like Moshe Rabbeinu, they got the Torah Zamaramatan. But normally the Indian from this is Oyer Hashayach al Ha'olam means this, that it's meaningful in the world, which means it has worldly qualifiers. And one of the qualifiers in the world is that it has a negative and a positive. It has to come in. And if it doesn't have a negative, it cannot not be, it's not part of the world. That's why it says that Emunah is really higher than world. It's higher than Tzeichel. Maimin HaSeichel. Because Emunah is not an acquired thing. This is why it's an amazing thing. Every human being, certainly every Yid has Emunah. Every healthy person has Emunah. That's the essence of a person. And yet, he struggles with it. And he has all kinds of doubts. Because this knowledge of Emunah is not an acquired knowledge. So he's not even aware of it. He becomes aware of it when Chas v'Sholom he is drawn away from it and sees, oh, this is impossible. I can't live with this. But as he can, normally he can be drawn away and he can create doubts. Why? He knows it. He has a Emunah. Every person has a Emunah. Without Emunah, it's not a human being. And yet he has struggles with Emunah, he doesn't know about it. Because the reason that it's not part of world. Emunah really is higher than world. It's the essence of the person. It's like, without knowledge, it's possible that there's a person. Without knowledge, with knowledge. Without Emunah, there is no person. There's not possible without it. That's why he doesn't always feel it. He has to really focus in and see, what do I think?